Hi, this is Rick Miller with Dow AgroSciences here on the West Coast. I have a short update of research data that I wanted to present. I thought it would be interesting for you to know about this. As you know, Gallery and Dimension and Snapshot are widely used in the ornamental and landscape business. Gallery and Snapshot are two of the leaders in the commercial ornamental nursery business, and Dimension and Snapshot are leaders in the landscape business for pre-emergent weed control. Today I'd like to spend a few minutes talking about the post-emergent activity of Dimension and Gallery and another product called Showcase. Now, brief aside, Showcase is ornamental nurseries only, and it is similar to Snapshot. However, it has half the load of isoxaben. So it has half the amount of Gallery, and it has some oxyfluorphan, which is also known as Goal, in it. So it's more of a post-emerge product in general. But you'll see from these data that both Gallery and Dimension are post-emergent on some of our key weeds that we have in the landscape and the ornamental nursery here on the West Coast. All of this research was conducted by one of my colleagues and researchers at Auburn University, Anita Alexander. I'll just mention her. She is the one who organized the research around observations that we have seen, and indeed you and our customers are people who have pointed this post-emergent activity out to us. And so now we're documenting it, and we'll be doing this for other weeds as we have the time and resources. So this first study that Anita developed at Auburn is on bittercress, which is one of the top 4 ornamental weeds in the United States for ornamental nurseries. And it's also one of the key weeds that we have in landscape, certainly in Central California and my territory along the coast. It's sometimes known as the popcorn plant because the seeds will dehisce. Literally, they'll spring off of the stem when you touch it. So you guys probably know what that weed is. There's only a couple like it in your landscape, and it certainly is a problem weed. So this is research work that was done where the bittercress seed was actually hand-sown into ornamental containers, and it was replicated work, and it was definitely post-emergent. So we're going to be looking at weeds that were anywhere from 2 to 4 leaves, 6 to 8 leaves, or 10 to 12 leaves in development. So really good-sized plants from as far as weeds go. And we had both granular applications made and liquid herbicides applied. And I'll talk about those in just a minute. And everything was irrigated with ½ inch of water shortly after the application. So right here you can see a picture of some of the weeds, the 2 to 4 leaf stage of bittercress, as well as the 6 to 8 leaf. That 6 to 8 leaf stage is a good sized weed. I think one that you might even think about hand weeding in the landscape. So you'll see in a few more slides what these things look like dead after applications of Gallery, a product which we're calling in this presentation was called Dow XR, which you will know in a few short months to be Gallery SC. That's our liquid Gallery formulation, which is now registered in California. We will be launching it with our first production run at the end of August 2014. Showcase, as I mentioned before, has Treflan in it. It has half the Gallery load, and it has 1/4% of Goal or oxyfluorphan in it. And then Dimension 2EW, the liquid version. So the results, and this is visible injury or death of the bittercress plant at 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and 4 weeks after treatment. And you can see that all the treatments were maybe a little bit slow to get going, but that Showcase with the oxyfluorphan or the Goal in it, which has a lot of post-emergent activity, was the quickest one out of the gate, and it topped out at 99%, but then at 4 weeks it seemed to drop off a little bit, so that's interesting. Dimension, which is a single active ingredient, and known for post-emergent control of crabgrass, which is a key feature that we have, also showing activity on bittercress, but it takes really 3 to 4 weeks to see substantial control there, as you see here in the data. Gallery, both the the dry flowable, the product that's been on the market for 25 years, and the new liquid formulation are performing in a similar way and reaching 100% control at 3 weeks after the application, whether we're at the lower rate, 0.66 pounds, which is equivalent to a pound of Gallery DF, or a pound of active, which is equal to 1.33 pounds of the formulated. And here's the same information in a bar chart. So, but now we're looking at 2 to 4 leaf in green, 6 to 8 leaf in blue, and 10 to 12 leaves in red. And you can see we did not get really consistent control of the 10 to 12 leaf plant, but that's a mature bitter cress. But you can see that the Gallery formulations at the high rate, that's equivalent to 1.33 pounds of the dry flowable, did get nearly 100% control of bitter cress even at the 10 to 12 leaf stage. So that's pretty exciting, and that's something that may give your landscapers some measure of comfort. If they're going after small bitter cress, they may not have to hand weed all of it. They may be able to kill it in place before it gets too big. So in conclusion, we're seeing that Gallery, Showcase, and Dimension have significant, effective post-emergent bitter cress control, especially at the 2 to 4 leaf stage, and that dropped off somewhat at 6 to 8 leaves. Now, as I change gears here, and now here's a picture of what's actually happening. So there's some of the replicates in place, and you can see in the middle 4 rows are the Gallery treatments at the low and the high rates. Pretty nice control of bitter cress at, and I believe this is at 4 weeks after treatment. Yep, 30 days. So I'm going to move on now. There is one other trial that is actually coming out of the research literature, and this is the same group of people. This is by Dr. Marble et al. At Auburn University, and this was also done at the behest of Dow AgroSciences. This is a different weed, though. This is yellow wood sorrel, also known as oxalis out here on the West Coast, and it's one of those tough weeds that has both a perennial stage and quite a bit of it can germinate from seed every year. So this is germination prevention as well as control of the established weed in the landscape. Pretty exciting that both Gallery and Dimension provided at least 90% control in 2 different greenhouse experiments, but this was at a very early stage of development. So C-1L means cotyledon stage. That's the very first part of the plant that pushes up through the ground through the 1 leaf stage. We're controlled with, and these are standard rates of Gallery. So 1 pound of the dry flowable, and Dimension Ultra at the ½ pound rate also, which would be 20 ounces of that material. So exciting post-emergent control of some of your key weeds. And as I mentioned before, we will be exploring more weeds and more of the development stages over time to see what these products can do in the post-emergent setting. If you have any questions, feel free to get a hold of me at rmiller@dow.com or my cell number 916-212-8598. And thank you for your support.